What's up, animation fans, and welcome back to What's the Difference, where I check out the differences between manga to anime, or manga to anime and anime in this situation, where we have Shaman King, which was a manga that was adapted into an anime in 2001, and now another anime in 2021. And so far, we've seen that when it comes to one version of the anime, it loves to put in a lot of flavor, atmosphere, character moments in order to pad things out a little bit, but also to build upon things that we've only slightly seen. Whereas in the newer adaptation of the anime, the 2021 anime, it likes to cut things down, trim the fat, almost to a fault, where it leaves a lot of things out. And so far, it seemed like the original anime is just slightly better because it actually wants to take its time with its story. But a lot of that also comes from the fact that, well, the manga was ongoing at this time, so it doesn't want to quickly catch up to it. So the animation staff for the original anime was given a lot of leeway in terms of what they could do in order to pad things out. It was a benefit, but also a hindrance in certain ways, because ultimately it will catch up. We will hit the point where it splits off from the manga. It's an inevitable situation, but also something to kind of be wonder, what's was it better? Is it was it better off doing that, or was that also to its detriment? So we're entering Volume 5, Chapter 39 of the manga, Episode 15 of the original anime, and Episode 7 of the new anime. So let's check out what's the difference. Manga opens up with a fun little cover page, still showing off Horo Horo despite the fact that Horo Horo isn't even in this volume. The artist just really loves Horo Horo. See, it's funny too because the manga opens up on a nice sunny day. They're having a little bit of a picnic, only for us to find out they're having a picnic in a straight up graveyard. How morbid, but I love the nice juxtaposition of things. It's just like, oh, it's just in a graveyard, a fun time. Whereas in the original anime, it's dark, it's gloomy, it's raining. The manga also has a lot of moments where they're discussing cemeteries and how Americans or Europeans, foreigners, basically bury their deads and all that kind of stuff. Mostly because when Japan, a lot of cremation happens. That's how they do away with their dead. I don't want to say dispose of, but that's ultimately what they do with their deceased. They cremate them. Whereas a lot of foreign countries, American countries, actually bury their dead. That's why you got a lot of zombie movies and stuff like that, which ultimately Japan doesn't really have to deal with. They also try to figure things out about what the cemetery situation is. They're trying to wonder, like, why here? Why of all places a cemetery? Lots of things about how prefectures. It's not really happening in Tokyo, despite the fact that it's called a shaman fight in Tokyo. A lot of inconsequential stuff to a certain degree. A nice little reunion with Silva, and Silva being, in trouble because he's not supposed to be selling his goods in this specific place and all that. A lot of comedic moments, a lot of character moments that, for some reason, both versions of the anime completely cut out. It's actually kind of weird that they cut all of this out of both versions for some reason. Even the moment where Anna is coming out of the bathroom and Silva asks, did everything come out alright? But, for some reason Silva wants to have a conversation specifically with Anna, mostly because he knows that in a relationship between Yo and Anna, it's Anna who wears the pants, despite the fact that she doesn't wear pants. The original anime just has them meeting up all of a sudden because Anna's making her way to the location with Yo. Manta questioning Yo about how the battle will be, what kind of person Faust will be. And we have the conversation that for some reason they're having in a restaurant where, Silva's basically trying to convince Anna to get Yo to back out of the situation. It really builds up the atmosphere in the original anime. We have this moment in the original anime where Silva's really talking Faust up, but all Silva really had to do in the manga and original anime was just kind of, he talked about the fact that he was a necromancer first. That was the thing. For some reason, they don't go into the fact that he's a necromancer immediately. In the original anime, Anna immediately knows how dangerous someone who's a necromancer can actually be. I like the way his coat looks more in the original anime and the manga too. Little oversized and all that. I love how friendly Faust is in the beginning and all that. Amidamaru also just immediately senses death on him. Fortunately, you don't have the conversation between Silva and Calum in the original anime. They really cut down on Calum in the original anime. It's weird too, because in the original anime, immediately gets into the fight situation. Like, there's no discussion about the fact that Faust is a doctor, at least not immediately. In the manga and the newer anime, he talks about the fact that he was a doctor, that he had to deal with a lot of death growing up. His willingness to try to overcome death and all that. It's actually weird to have it be the original anime who has a little bit more brevity than the manga and the newer anime. And you don't get his little dog Boney. I think that's his dog. I think that's the name of his dog, Boney. And then you get the scene where he summons out the corpse of Eliza and all that good stuff. Well, he reveals that he was just carrying it around under his coat, which, I don't know how I feel about that. It's just like, yeah, I know it's your lover and all that, but just to be carrying her around under your jacket is very weird. I love this scene in all versions where he puts the soul in the... Lots more comedic moments in the original anime before Manta runs away from being freaked out. And now you get the discussion about him trying to defeat death. I kind of like it better when he's not holding a corpse when he says all of that. I like the build to revealing how crazy he ultimately is. Yeah, we go into crazy a little too fast for my liking. Also, they don't have the moment where Faust is more curious about Manta's shorter body in the original anime. I kind of prefer that, honestly. Having it be more of a whim that Faust is interested in Manta rather than it being just that he's kind of pissed at Manta for thinking that, overcoming death is impossible. Like, Manta is mocking Faust's goals of some way overcoming death of a loved one. And then boom, skulls and stuff. For some reason they don't want to have Eliza wielding the dog, the skeleton of the dog, as a weapon. It's kind of weird that they chosen to do this in the original anime. I kind of like the idea of just like, boom, the dog is a weapon. And then in all version shows, it gets trapped by skeletons. It looks kind of awkward in the original anime. I love this moment in the original anime, though, where he takes Eliza's hand and they're gracefully walking over to Manta. It's so hilariously morbid. For some reason, they put him up on a cross in the original anime. Yeah, in the original anime, too, for some reason, he has these weird rings where he's able to kind of plunge his hand right into Manta, which is, I guess, more of a PG way of the situation in both the manga and the newer anime, where he just takes a scalpel and just starts vivisecting Manta right then and there. Which I'm like, okay, I guess. In the original anime, I guess they wanted a few more magical elements in order to get around the really messed up nature of this scene. Because even the newer anime doesn't completely, dive deep into it, because it censors it a little bit. Whereas in the manga, you straight up see his skin peeled back, his muscles and bones and stuff exposed. It's really kind of fucked. Chapter 41, Natural Bone Killers. I also love the fact that Chapter 40 was called Spill Your Guts, right before Manta was cut open. Oh, so messed up. And then Yo finally gets pissed off. God, I love pissed off Yo in the original anime. You don't get enough of that kind of stuff. You don't get the moment where he actually smacks Faust in the face though. It's kind of weird. And because Manta was never cut open, Yo doesn't really have to go and comfort him like this. And the joke about collecting Manta's spirit and all that. And the joke about Faust being a doctor. And then his ultimate attack, Bone Dead Reborn. And then just a surge of skeletons come in. Honestly, it's the manga that makes it look like, oh my god, there are just so many skeletons coming in. Ah man, such a cool moment though. Although the moment in the original manga is also kind of cool, where he just walks forward towards Faust in just this seething anger, whereas in the original manga and the anime, and the newer anime, he just goes flying in on Faust. And then you get to episode 16, Faust Love. I think it's like a parody on Strange Love. A lot of Yo desecrating the dead here, too. In the anime, they still have Silva show up, but the fight hasn't even started. Like, a lot of their combat happens before the fight even starts, too. In all versions of this. Yeah, he has a protection. Instead of it just being the bones who help him and all that, he just has the skeletons rise back up. Full on Yo knocks him back. And then the fight starts. But in the manga, Faust gets brutalized. Straight up bones literally have just been jammed into his body and stuff from a strike from Yo. And Yo just looks absolutely badass in this moment in the newer anime, where he's just like, I'm taking Manta to a fucking real doctor. The older anime kind of underplays a lot of Yo's, I guess, intensity. And in the manga, there's even a moment where he outright just cuts into his own leg because it was broken. And he just takes out his broken bone right then and there, tearing through the flesh and muscle. Just tosses the broken bone, goes off and has Eliza get him a new one. It's absolutely weird. But it also just goes to show the depth of how far Faust is willing to go. He is one sick motherfucker. And that's where he has the bones rise up again and all of that. And Yo just ends up completely surrounded. And Silva is late to arrive in the manga, whereas in the older anime, he arrives right before the start. Also have a nice moment in the manga because at the fancy restaurant that they were eating at, Calum ends up being the one who has to wash dishes there because Silva kind of skipped out on the meal that he and Anna had. There's also the talk about the fact that Silva is supposed to be impartial, and Anna even said that he would fight. So it's it shows just how dedicated Silva has become to Yo, and the hope also that Yo will eventually defeat Ren. Yo's just dealing with so many skeletons, and it's not going well. And they completely cut out the reasoning of why he's drinking that little energy drink. It's just like because he just went through surgery essentially. But here it's more or less like just to, they don't explain the reasoning behind why he's bandaged up and this and that. They make it seem more like it was internal injuries rather than external. And then Yoi lets out this massive attack and all that, but in all versions he uses up a lot of his Furyoku. And then Silva arrives a little too late. Then we get into chapter 43 regarding Yo. And the manga has this long situation with Silva. The manga really does cut back on. Well, the other anime really do cut back on a lot of the discussions that Silva has between him and Calum and him on his other spirits. The situation where the spirits want to go in and help Yo is very much underplayed in the newer anime and almost non existent in the older anime. Like, it's not just a discussion between Silva and Silver Wings. It's a discussion with Silva and all of his spirits. All of them are just like, Yo is going to die. We gotta get Manta to a hospital. Like, they're really taking human life into account here. And they actually kind of credit Yo to the fact that he can still get his sword swinging. He's still able to stand up. It's just like, he really does seem pretty powerful. And they actually comment on the fact that Yo really is trying his best. And the discussion between Anna and Silva about why Yo is trying so hard for Manta. I guess the original anime felt that this little interlude where Anna talks about the fact that Yo actually had a fairly troubled history in his youth, that he was called a devil boy and all that. Because whereas shamans back in the day were very crucial to society, nowadays, not so much. They're kind of seen as freaks in today's society if you go around talking to ghosts. I like this little bit of Yo's backstory and all that, where he plays it off like he's fine, but he actually has a bit more of a lonely history than you would think, and that's why he clung so hard onto Manta. I think the older anime does this as well. They have this little discussion, but not to the same degree. The fact that Manta is dying in every other version but the OG anime just it undercuts so many things. Also, the joke about where Anna was this entire time is just like, oh, I went to go get a raincoat. And Manta spurting blood because he's just like, you went shopping? The moment where we have Eliza form, it's a lot more visual in the manga where you see her slowly form from her flesh and like nudity and all that good stuff. Like she's straight up naked woman. The manga Chapter 44, The Pale Lover. And then Eliza forms. His dear Eliza, his beloved Eliza. In the original anime too, Faust goes into the tirade and backstory about Eliza unprovoked, whereas in the manga and newer anime, Yo questions, who is this woman to you? Yeah, why is she so dear that you would put all of your Furiyoko into her? Yeah, what the little bit of Furiyoko he was using in order to control all those skeletons, he's now fully putting into Eliza. And at first, Faust doesn't even want to answer what it is. It's interesting. Yeah, and the fact that Faust was trying to provoke Yo in order to get him to use up all of his Furioku and all that. They really do underplay the discussion between Silva and Silverwing, Silvertail, all of them, all of Silva's spirits. They go into a detailed explanation about how Furioku works, and it's completely cut out of almost every version of the anime. It's just brief, at most, in the newer anime. Older anime never touches on it. It's a shame. It's a shame because it really drives home, why Faust is so much more able to control Furioku than maybe Yo. And how the degree of how much control he actually has. The fact that Faust was actually only using just enough on like the joints of the skeletons, certain parts of the skeletons, just to put the minimal amount of movement he needed in order to keep Yo at bay. It's just like Faust, despite the fact that he seems mad, he seems deranged, he's actually super clever and tactical. And a lot of moments are cut from the animes too, where Eliza is just battling Yo, stopping his blade with her bones and all that. She comes off very powerful here too. The manga really does a lot more to just show off just how capable Eliza really is. There's even a discussion where Anna outright it's just like, yeah, Yo is... Anna has already accepted in the manga that Yo is probably going to lose. But she accepts that he will hopefully just continue afterwards, even if he does lose. And then the volume ends with him calling Eliza a doll, which gets a lot of Faust anger up as it goes along. I also wish they had more of these little miniature stories in the anime, like a moment where Anna has Yo go out and buy dinner, and he really wishes he could buy this new CD, CDs from back in the day, only for to notice that Anna put a little bit more money in the shopping list so that Yo could get that new CD, only for to have bought a CD by Anna's favorite band and all that good stuff. So it shows the loving dynamic between the two of them that you don't get enough of in a lot of the other mediums too. Volume 6 of the manga brings us to chapter 45, Faust Love. And he loses his shit, starts fighting fairly erratically and all that. I also love the fact that Anna takes her knowledge from back when they fought Pyron and June. It's just like, okay, what was it about the relationship between Faust and Anna? She's not just a puppet. She's something deeper than that. The fact that the deceased having any will of their own makes it harder for them to control. That's the thing about people like, Pyron and June. It's just like having a will of their own. It's just like it makes things a lot more tricky. And Yo only has the tip of his blade still with Furyoku. And then he reveals that it was his wife and all that. And then we get Faust's backstory. You know, I kind of prefer him giving this story when he's a little bit more rational, I guess. You know, the way that he grew up, Eliza was the only kind person to him. He had this disease that kept her bedridden, so Faust studied for 20 years, and then he was eventually able to cure her. The clinic that they started, and then the moment when Eliza was killed by robbers, shot dead. For some reason, the newer anime cuts out the fact that he had actually gone to get her flowers too. They don't really go into the fact too much that the bullet, she was shot in the head, but you can see it from her skull. That's how she died. Shot right in the head too. Maybe if it was a body shot, Faust could have saved her. And then Faust desperately tried to save her. And so he went into the dark arts and all that, the way of his ancestors. That's how he learned about the Shaman fight from the older Faust's information. And now the older anime goes into discussion of what's driving Yo forward and all that. It's just like, I kind of like the fact that it's just like, Faust gave his backstory, now we get Yo's backstory from Anna. And now you finally have the moment in the older anime where he brings Eliza back through the medium. See, at least the older anime is at least having the other spirits of Silva talk a little bit rather than it just being Silva. See, now they're going into the detail. So it is the older anime, the newer anime that just really doesn't give enough of an explanation about things. I don't know why. There's also a little bit more of a time limit where Faust is actively going after Manta, whereas in all the other stuff, it's more of a passive situation. It's just like he already cut open Manta, and now we've gotten to the point where Yo calls Eliza a doll, insulting Faust deeply. Makes it seem more like Yo was being a little bit more cruel, but that was in response to the really depraved thing that Faust was doing, at least in the older anime. Whereas in the manga and newer anime, it was more of he just considered her a doll the way that Faust was fighting with her. Whereas, after knowing the story, it's just like, okay, I get what's going on with you now. And they both start to quickly run out of Furyoku. You can actually see it depleting off of Yo. Boom, he's out. It's unfortunate because Yo doesn't get his final comment about how everything dies eventually. Overcoming death is like never having been born. And his reason why Faust doesn't deserve to be Shaman King, and the moment where Yo cuts off Eliza's legs. In the newer anime, though, it doesn't look like they're completely broken, but they are indeed shattered in the older manga. They are shattered, completely destroying her legs. And then you get into chapter 46, A Form of Courage, which is the name of the episode, the newest episode, episode 6. Or 7? Yeah, episode 7. And then Yo runs out of all of his mana, his Furyoku. So he loses the match. And then you get Yo's comment about how he really thought things would work out, but he got all caught up. I like immediately having this bitter moment for Yo when he realizes that he lost. And then you get this nice moment between Amidamaru and Yo, why Yo just got so bent out of shape, why he cared so much. I really do like this moment. I feel like older anime really could have used this in this place, where immediately Yo has to be talked up and let just have his spirits raised up so he can try again. And Anna's comment about Yo needing her less over time. But then it's just like, no, Faust isn't done. Faust is pissed for what he did to Eliza. He gets determined to end Yo. Honestly, I love the way it looks in the manga and in the OG anime when he summons his 14-ton calcium giant. Because you know outright it's composed of bones. And in comes Ren, just utterly annihilating it right then and there. I love the fact that Eliza catches him. You're my next opponent. Yes. I love that all versions end right there. Because it is the hype that is Ren. Like, Ren coming in like a badass. It's like, I can't let Yo die yet. He's my next opponent. Yes. The chapter ends there. The episodes end there. Oh, gosh, so good. But not having that moment between Yo and Mitamaru. Anna's lament that Yo will need her less in the future. You know, seeing that Yo's not completely unfappable. He has things that he just regrets and feels a certain way about. Alright, so that's the end of things. I feel that ultimately every version just decided to kind of do its own thing. The manga really, it feels like the best incarnation to me in a lot of ways, because with the older anime, it made some interesting choices with the way it decided to place things, and to not have Yo's emotional moment. That was very crucial. Yo's emotional moment at the end, I really felt needed to happen, and to just have kind of cut that out, that's kind of disappointing to me to a certain degree. Like, you guys really needed to just go into that, do something with that, have a little bit of a moment with that, and to just not have that included, I don't know. It feels like they really dropped the ball on that one. But in terms of the newer anime, they kind of dropped the ball too. Yeah, they did have a great moment with Yo towards the end. I'm so glad they still kept that in. But a lot of the discussion about how Foryoku works, the tactical way that Faust was using it, that was all cut. The series really needed that. It really needed a lot of that. And to have had none of that in the end, I feel like that was a shame. That was a missed opportunity. Just each of the other adaptations just have their shortcomings, and it's hard to ignore that. You know, I really was hoping that the newer anime would just be the one that includes everything. Everything on the table, boom! We put it all out there in order to really just delve into this series. But in the end, no, that's not what we got. And that is really a shame. The anime reigns supreme in my eyes. And man, I feel like it'll be another 20 years before I get an adaptation that really lets this series shine the way that I think it should. But tell me your thoughts in the comment section below. What's your favorite form of this series? The manga, the older anime, or the newer anime? I'm interested to hear your thoughts and comments in the comment section below. But until next time, please, if you like this video, like, comment, and subscribe. And until next time, I've been Duuz-Diz-Din, and I will see you later. Bye-bye.